Power on.
Earth, 2018. The alliance between governments and tech giants has led to the rise of the surveillance society, distraction technology, the attention wars, and the erosion of your mind. But one show stands against this insidious system. Hosted by the podcast champion, the man of tomorrow, the golden stallion of the tech world, Brian Sovryn. He and his co-hosts form the intellectual resistance. It's time for Sovryn Tech.
You're dressing all in black, from your front to your back, and all your evil ways, they seem to go on for days, and as a matter of fact, you got white smash it up, burn it down, tearing up the underground. You wanna live like a super villain, back in the lineup before your time's up. You wanna live like a super villain. Alright. You've been knocking down these doors, you've been filling up this room. You run around the place like your name was Dr. Doom. You're a killer of culture, a vulture of style, and it won't be that long before you end up on trial. You're gonna smash it up, burn it down, tearing up the underground. You wanna live like a super villain, back in the lineup before your time's up. You wanna live like a super villain.
Woo! Absolutely glorious, baby. The Golden Stallion, the Man of Tomorrow, Savzu, the Rated R, radio star, here and ready for some Sovryn Tech this week, baby. And do we have some good stuff to get into. We've got some things that are going to touch near and dear to my heart this week. Oh, yes, we're going to talk about some Elon Musk. Oh, what was old Elon saying? Well, we're going to find out about that, aren't we? We've got all kinds of things that we're going to get into this week. And including some things that, well, you're going to want to stop using. But you got to listen in to find out about all of that. But speaking of something, I'll tell you, let's get right into it. Why waste time? Something you might want to use. So here's the thing. I'm going to tell you a little story. Okay, we'll get right in. We're not wasting time. Of course, this is a show all about science and technology and how it helps set you free, and it does so much more. Everybody has a good time when they're on that old Sovryn Tech or when they're listening to it, which you're doing right now. And I thank you, by the way, the thousands and thousands of you. But let me tell you. So, little story, okay, right here in the Foreplay. Because I'm going to tell you about something to use, and I'm going to tell you about something to stop using. Something that I was using as well, and I was not doing my own little due diligence, but it brings up a very important point. We'll get into it in a second here. So, okay, earlier today, in fact, I got a question. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get into the important messages segment on this week's episode. We have so much to talk about. But I got a question like, what's a day in the life of the Golden Stallion? Pretty much that was what they're asking. Now, I get this question actually quite a bit. I get it a lot. But today, of course, I am recording this on its release day, which is Saturday, June 7th, which this is, for me, June 7th is a very important day, and it is a special day on the Sovryn Tech calendar. July 7th. Why am I saying June? July 7th. Of course, we celebrated another special day on the Sovryn Tech calendar, that being July 4th, which is not Independence Day, not on Sovryn Tech, baby. That is MK Lord's Day. And everybody, if you didn't already, you go wish that gal, you go wish her a happy birthday, because July 4th is her birthday. And I completely changed it. On Sovryn Tech, in the Sovryn universe, no, we do not celebrate Independence Day, because fuck that shit. If it's yes, we declared our independence. Well, I can't declare my independence from all the bullshit. Where can I go where I don't have to pledge allegiance to some country? Oh, nowhere? Oh, well, so much for independence. That's a bullshit term. Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to go down that road, okay? It's something I want to talk about here. Well, actually, this kind of has to do with your own personal independence that you just take by dare I say, sheer force of will, okay? But anyway, so yeah, go tell MK happy birthday, all right? But like I said, we'll get into July 7th. Maybe I'll get into that during the wild card segment. But all right, here's the thing. So I get up this morning around 8 o'clock. Now, Saturdays are days that I usually most of the time I dedicate pretty hard to Sovryn Tech. Like, it's the day that I record it, and obviously I'm recording for about 2 hours, okay, which recording for 2 hours sometimes takes a little bit longer, even though in general I record this live and I don't really do pauses or anything like that. I don't stop in the middle of it unless there's some kind of emergency or whatever. I'm literally sitting down in the BDSM studio for about 2 hours straight, sometimes even longer than that. So anyway, that's usually how I roll here. And when I get the chance, I like to ease into the day. Like I don't like to just get up and hit the ground running. It's not that I can't do that. I can. Okay. I mean, I can actually do that really, really well. I'm one of those people. I'm not exactly, maybe I'm technically a night person, night owl, but I'm the kind of person that has either chosen or unfortunately, I really, don't say this with laughter, but like I've been beaten in a way to either, throughout my life, to just be ready at any given moment. Like, I can get up at 7 a.m. I can get up at 7 p.m., whatever is kind of needed of the life that I'm leading at the time. And anyway, so I get up, but I if I can, I like to take a good hour, maybe even hour and a half, to really wake up and to ease into everything, have some coffee and whatever else. So anyway, I pretty much do that this morning. And so around 9:30, I'm kind of getting ready to go, and I start prepping everything for Sovryn Tech, making sure. Usually I'm working on Sovryn Tech throughout the week anyway, and it's kind of fortunate that this show, what I want to talk about as far as tech and everything else, really, it's what I'm encountering by the day anyway. It's just what I do. It's what I'm automatically interested in. And so I'm already, on top of this stuff. So it's not like I necessarily, it's work, but it's not exactly work because it's what I'm already researching and interested in and blah, blah, blah. It's always been that way. Been that way for 6 years with this show. So, I'm starting to compile everything and whatever. And then, I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? And I have a MoviePass card, which boy, could we tell stories about MoviePass. But I have a MoviePass card. And actually, I'll tell you something about that. Here's a little tip and trick for you with MoviePass. But anyway, so I have a MoviePass card and I'm like, I kind of feel like I need to go see Solo again. Okay, now, listeners of Sovryn Tech know, because whenever a new movie comes out, I dedicate an entire fucking episode, or at least half of an episode, to doing a review of it. I am a huge Star Wars fan. Always have been, balls to bone. It's always been a thing. Might get into that a little bit more later. But anyway, it's a part of who I am, and it's not a part of me that I've decided to cut off in any way, regardless of, any issues I may have or whatever that Disney is doing. You can listen to, so for those that don't know, of course, on Patreon, if you go to patreon.com/SovrynTech, okay, if you go to Patreon, or you just go to my webpage, zog.email, and you can find the link there for it. I do with my co-host, Robin, he and we do every month, once a month, we do the Star Wars update, which we usually spend an hour to 2 hours just talking all the Star Wars news and reviewing the comics and all this other stuff and everything. It's a great time. One of my favorite times of the month. And I just love doing it. I always feel great. So anyway, so we do the Star Wars update. But yeah, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So, I said, I feel like, because I had only seen Solo once, and then I did the review of it on Sovryn Tech. You can go find that. And we also reviewed it on the Star Wars update on Patreon. But I was like, yeah, I feel like, I need to see this again. Like, I got to feel it, and I usually, like Last Jedi, I saw a couple times in theaters. It's something that I wanted to, I like to do that. Star Trek movies, I'm the same way. I like to see the Star Trek movies at least twice, or maybe a few times. If it's another franchise that I really cared about, I would see the movie multiple times. Jurassic Park, or the new Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. I've already seen that once. We're going to do a review during the climax during this episode. I'm probably going to end up seeing that another time. But anyway, so Solo. I decided to go see it. I looked to see, is it at my local theater, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it's still there, which in itself is kind of amazing because at least in a lot of local theaters, most movies I feel, and of course I live in New Hampshire, but most movies I feel, and this was true in upstate New York, it's true in a lot of places that aren't, these horrendous, conglomerate things called cities. usually you're lucky if you get 2 or 3 weeks out of these films because there's so many movies that are coming out. And it's not like usually you have these gigantic multiplexes in the middle of these towns because, there's not enough people to support that kind of thing where you'd have, 1 million fucking theaters, that you could put into this building or something. Usually it's like a 5 or 6 theater building that you're going to end up having locally. Okay. Now, MoviePass might end up saving that whole industry, but that's or it fucking might not and just go completely belly up. But that's not my story to tell you here. I am going to tell you something about using MoviePass though in a second. So anyway, I decided to go see Solo. All right, here I go, and I take a walk. I go for a walk, and I'm like, so something about me that I am always, just as much as I'm always reading tech news, I'm always reading science news and everything else. I am always testing out new tech or new ideas or new software. Like I'm just constantly testing it. And the fruits of said tests end up become content, of course, for Sovryn Tech. It ends up being things that I can talk about, recommend or not recommend or whatever. So something I've been toying with is that with my Nexus 7, which is my Android tablet, okay, which is my top tablet for the Dark Android project that I recommend using. And I was testing out a lot of like, okay, what if really like all I've got is this tablet. Here's the mindset that I was going with, right? All I've got is this tablet. Everything's completely offline. What the fuck do I do? Like I don't have an internet connection. How can I get around in the world? Can this device really still, be completely valid? And so I have been messing with a lot of more modern apps because it's been a little while since I've put my whole Dark Android idea, which is the idea of having like a really privacy and security enabled mobile device. No smartphone. Smartphones are inherently, by their very fucking nature, get it into your head. Smartphones are completely insecure, just straight up, right out of the gate. You're lucky if you got a couple pieces of software that will provide some kind of security, but you're not kidding yourself. You can do things to help you mitigate and lock down your phone, but just don't talk to me and say, oh no, my smartphone's like totally locked down and no one knows that it's me that's using it and blah blah blah. I mean, you're full of shit. Like who the hell are you kidding? Don't give me that. So anyway, my this tablet, I'm testing out different things, and I was like, yeah, let's see how it goes. Let's see how well it works. If I take a little stroll with this and pretend I don't have internet, and which I mean it doesn't because I didn't connect it to Wi-Fi or whatever, and so. And I know the way to the theater, but I was like, yeah, let's use the map software, see how all that works and everything. And I've got to tell you, so now this isn't exactly going to work as far as privacy because there's a certain thing you have to do to be able to use it. Okay, and I'll explain that. I use, I don't know what they call this. Maybe I just need to reach out to the fucking developers. But it's OSM-AND, okay? And I've always called it Awesome And, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense. The name makes sense. It's Open Street Maps. That's what OSM stands for. And then and is probably Android. Now, you can, in F-Droid, F-Droid, which is the independent software repository, okay, that you can find at fdroid.org, you can get the Android Plus or the Awesome And Plus version for free. If you get it through the Google Play Store, it charges you $9. But they want they want this great, open source map software to be available to people that, say use Android or need an open source solution. Maybe it's to help out activists. I'm not sure what exactly their mindset is with again, I'm going to call it Awesome And, but it's OSM And Plus. I'll put a link in the show notes for it if you really want to check it out, and I recommend you do. But I'm trying it out, and this map software has just gone leaps and bounds as far as advancing. I mean, just leaps and leaps and bounds from where it was when I first started the Dark Android project. Like, it's fucking amazing, frankly. What it has. Like, now it has driving, it has bike routes, it has if you're walking. I mean, so many things. Like, the accuracy may not be as great as Google Maps, but there's barely a feature that Google Maps has that this doesn't have. I mean, I was just shocked. And now they have a subscription service, which if you get it through the Google Play Store, this is where your anonymity goes out the window, by the way, if it's tied to your name, if your Google account is tied to your name in some way. and you'd have to do it through the Google Play Store. But they have what's called Awesome and Live, and it's a subscription model. It's $1.63 a month to pay for it, and you get like all of these extra features that they have. And they have like topographical maps that they can add on, hillside stuff. I mean, lots of where you could really use this. And I mean, the best part of Awesome and that it was really ahead of the game on. I know that Google Maps can kind of do this now, and there's Here Maps, which could do this, and others. But it allows for offline maps, okay? And it just uses the GPS device within your tablet or smartphone if you don't have a data connection. But now Awesome and pretty much works anywhere, not just on the street. It can work off-road and all that, which is very different from, again, like I said, where it was even just 2-3 years ago. I was just eminently impressed with how well this worked, and it did the job. I had no internet connection. It took me right where I wanted to go. It even had beautiful little icons where it showed where the movie theater was, even though so it didn't work perfect, because when I entered the address for the movie theater, or not the address, but when I entered the movie theater just to find it on offline search, because I had maps downloaded for New Hampshire, I have all maps downloaded for New England. It didn't find it. Okay. But I knew of a place nearby or right next to it. And so I put that in and it found that, and then it just started leading me to that. But as I'm walking, then it shows me, it sees the theater and it puts up a little bubble atop of it, letting you know that there's a theater there, that there's entertainment of some kind. And then I could just click on that, add it to my favorites, and now it's right there, and I can go to it. All without an internet connection, all completely offline. It did all of this. And I was really, really, really pleased. So I am paying for the Awesome Man Live subscription, to try that out. I haven't really tested it so much on on a road trip of some kind. I am interested in doing that now because they have improved so significantly. But I mean, this is such a feature rich. You're going to spend all day long looking at going through the features on this. It's really fucking amazing. So I heartily recommend, even if you're walking and you're not, necessarily driving so much, I heartily recommend Awesome and Plus. I mean, you can pay the one-time fee and not the subscription fee. With the subscription, you end up, as I understand it, you get more up to the minute, or it's actually up to the hour updates. And of course, you'd have to be connected to the internet to get those, but you would get consistent updates to the app by the hour. And that's the thing with OpenStreetMaps, which is this entire project, okay, which is trying to create an open source, not all being held in Google's servers and they're the only ones collecting the data situation, where there is literally open source street maps. And this is a worldwide project being done by, in my opinion, genuine activists. I think this is genuine activism that people are engaging in, where they are, mapping the world, and not just cities and streets anymore. Now they're mapping, off-road. They're mapping mountains. They're mapping all this other stuff. You get to take advantage of all that. I think that's tremendous. It's important that exists. And I'm glad that that it's happening and it's really working. Again, it may not be as precise as what Google Maps is doing, because most people don't realize that, part of the reason Google wanted to get into the smartphone business in the first place is that they wanted to use all of the metadata that they collect from you to make their maps better. I mean, granted, it's also to track you and, serve you, not better ads, but to serve you spyware or to consistently spy on you and have a great relationship with the government, which of course we've talked about recently over recent episodes, how Google is so excited. And yes, those are their exact words. They're excited to work with the military. They love having, all of this data about you through their smartphones. But anyway, that kind of leads me to another thing. So I ended up catching Solo, which, by the way, real quick on that, and then I want to talk about MoviePass for a second. I liked Solo a lot. Even I didn't hate it the first time. If you remember my review on Sovryn Tech, I said it was fun. It was it was a fun time. I actually liked the movie a lot more this time around, and I found myself laughing a little harder, and also getting a few more goosebumps moments when things would happen. And I don't know if it's because my expectations were kind of cut down a bit or what. But I really liked this movie a lot more the second time around. And at first I didn't feel a need to go see it a second time. But then today I was just like, I think I'm going to use my MoviePass and go, and go see a free movie. Because after you see one movie with MoviePass, right, every other movie for the month, because you only pay $10 a month for MoviePass, is pretty much free. And talk about something that's tracking you. But anyway, I gave that. Yeah, I decided, I was like, all right, let's use it. Let's go do it. There's other movies that I plan on seeing throughout July, so it's not like I'm not going to get my money's worth, certainly. But anyway, so Solo, yeah, I liked it much better the second time. Maybe I'll talk about that more in the future, maybe on a Star Wars update, or maybe it'll come out on a Sovereign Tech Prime episode. Regardless, with MoviePass, all right, here's the deal with MoviePass. This is a pain in the fucking ass. MoviePass is becoming one of those apps, not as crazy as Netflix, but it's becoming one of those apps. And I know that there's software you can install that tries to mitigate this, but it's just like, it's a fucking arms race. MoviePass is one of those ones where if you're not using an official Android ROM, as in if you're not using an official version of Android, as in you're not, if you're using something other than Lineage OS or Copperhead OS or whatever, okay, like if you are using Lineage OS or Copperhead OS or anything like that, it actually stopped updating. Like the app won't update anymore, and when you go to open it, it will tell you need to update now, and you can't use it if you don't update, but you can't download it through the Google Play Store. Okay, so the pain in the ass that I go through, okay, for this, and look, I know that there's apps out there that try to mitigate this to where Netflix can work, because like Netflix can't work, it won't work on rooted devices, right, unless you pull a couple tricks. I'm aware of those, okay. So, but what I do, just for the ease of it all, I go to APK Mirror, okay, appkmirror.com, right? And I just download the latest version of the app every time, and I just keep reinstalling it. But it's a pain in the ass today because, like, they're updating the app often now, okay, MoviePass is. Like, I updated on July 1st, and I didn't realize it. I didn't even think about it. And now, anytime before I go to the movies, I'm just going to go to APK Mirror to see if there's a new version out. There is... on July 6th, yesterday, they fucking updated it. And so when I went there and I go to I'm there at the theater because you got to be within so many yards of the theater, to be able to use it. And it's like, oh, you got to update your app. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And so I had to stand there and like update the app and then, and then re-log into it and everything. And then I can make it work, but it was fine. But this is becoming a very popular thing. In fact, I almost think that, and there's a reason for this, I almost think that MoviePass is regularly updating the app to put a stop to this, because I get the sense that there are people who are, quote unquote, abusing somehow the MoviePass app, and or trying to because here's the thing, like MoviePass only works as a company if MoviePass can collect all of the data about you that they collect, and they can say what they want, that they're not collecting this or that, but they are. And I think that if you're using, say, like Lineage OS or something that blocks certain permissions and features, or and data sets of what MoviePass is putting out there, like it kills their model. It really does. They just can't allow for it. So a part of me almost feels, even though the amount of people that don't use an official Android, official version of Android is pretty minuscule, I kind of wonder if they're not regularly updating the app as a security feature for it, to keep people from somehow, fucking with the app or the service itself overall by using devices that have feature sets, like Lineage OS has feature sets that regular Android does not, that they might be able to take advantage of. This is the same reason I think Netflix doesn't allow for it to work on rooted devices, because with the rooted device, you can install apps that will record like everything that will allow you to get copies, shall we say, of Netflix content. And so they're terrified of that, and they had to put the kibosh on that, and that's part of the reason that they stopped supporting rooted devices, because people it's how pirates were able to get Netflix content, or one of the ways. There's other ways too, but it's one of the easier ways that pirates were able to get content from Netflix and put it up on the Pirate Bay or whatever, which the Pirate Bay is finally back up, even though the Tor version of that site never went down. So anyway, there's my story. Use Awesome And. It's fantastic. I've really, really been impressed by it. Now, let's switch to something to stop using and to not use. And actually, unless you already have it installed, you can't use it anymore anyway. This is a browser extension that I just discovered, a couple of years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, and I fell in love with it. I thought it was so cool. What it's called is Stylish, okay? And what it does is and either Firefox, Opera, or or Chrome, it's an extension, add-on, whatever, that you install, and it will repaint the web, as it were. Okay, like it'll take. Now Twitter has a dark theme built into the website feature set itself, so you don't really need it for that anymore. But say if you're on Facebook and you're just tired of that searing bright white and blue, and you want the blue to turn red, and you want everything that's white to go dark somehow, either a black or a gray or whatever. Stylish would allow you to skin various websites, and I loved it because I can't stand that searing white on anything. It's just it's terrible. And maybe it's because I, unfortunately, as much as I, especially in the past year, have been really trying to get outside and get away from looking at screens as much as I possibly can. I still stare at screens a lot throughout the day, as part of my work, for Sovryn and for whatever else. So anyway, Stylish I thought was really great because, you could just dark theme everything, right? The entire internet, you could pretty much dark theme. And it was a very, very handy thing. Now, something I didn't realize and that Tech News did kind of report on, but it wasn't a big deal. And is that they got bought out. They got bought out by a company called SimilarWeb, and this was in January of 2017. So about a year and a half ago, that they ended up getting bought out. When they got bought out, they changed business model as to where something was just independently kind of developed before. And you got to understand, there's a huge community around Stylish because userstyles.org, I think is the website, where a bunch of people will, just like people make themes for web browsers, they'd make themes for websites, and they would, you'd upload them to userstyles.org, and, everything would hopefully yours would be popular or not or whatever, or maybe it'd never go anywhere and you just did it for yourself anyway, whatever. It was a really, really nice extension. I loved it. And I noticed a few days ago, or I guess maybe it was even a week or two ago, that Firefox, when I was doing a clean install on an Android device, that when I was putting add-ons onto Firefox for Android, and I was going for Stylish, it said it wasn't there, and I'll go, whoa, what the hell is this? And then also when I powered up Firefox at another point, it came up with a warning about Stylish, and I was like, whoa, hey, what's going on? This is one of the most popular extensions ever made. What's the deal? Well, that's the thing, is that SimilarWeb bought it, and when they bought it in January of 2017, they had the extension start collecting literally all of your browser metadata, or at least as much as they could get their hands on. And it has been, there was a guy just recently who, what was his name? Robert Heaton? Yeah, Robert Heaton, that he found out, hey, wow, this is sending tons of data back to SimilarWeb, the people that bought Stylish. And the amount of data that's sent is certainly, easily enough to attach. It's the metadata, and the data is so vast that they're collecting. It's very easy to come up with a real world identity of whoever's doing the web browsing based upon it. It's that egregious. It's that bad. So first off, let me just say this. If you're using Stylish, and hey, I was too, get rid of it. Just delete. I don't mean to sound like Matt Hardy, but delete. Okay. Just get it out of your life on everything. Okay. Whatever browser you're using. And now I don't kind of feel bad about this, because the people that should really be watching what extensions do and what kind of data they're collecting, etc., are the browser makers themselves. Okay, now I get it. Google has a whole shit ton of stuff to do. And so, poor Google, they can't pay attention to everything that's happening on Chrome. There's just so much developed. I'll let that go so far, okay? Considering the amount of data that Google themselves collect, they didn't notice this extra payload that was going out over the past year and a half. It's not like they didn't have plenty of time. It'd be one thing if, we found out about this after a month after SimilarWeb bought Stylish. No. It's been a year and a half. There should have been, they should have seen this traffic going. So maybe they don't care. I don't know. But regardless, the browser companies are paying attention now. Firefox, Mozilla, that's what they do, is the fucking browser. Someone there should have noticed this. Same with Opera. Very weird. Now, I mean, of course, I guess I kind of wonder, are all of the browser companies, and to some degree, yes, this is absolutely true, but are they all just collecting so much data that, what Stylish was doing just got lost in the shuffle, and they're just like, oh, no, this is totally normal. I mean, we're fucking everybody's privacy. We're telling them to bend over and grab the ankles every day anyway, so, oh, that's that little bit, oh, that's nothing. Maybe that's the deal, But regardless, now you can no longer, it's not Mozilla's, add-on repository and Chrome, the Chrome Web Store and Opera's, extension store, whatever the hell that is. None of those allow for Stylish anymore. Like they're gone, because it does, break their terms of service for extensions and everything. It's just it's crazy that it took them that it took an independent guy to find it, and they themselves didn't find it. I really put a lot of, fuck SimilarWeb, no doubt about that. I'm not mad at the guys that developed Stylish. What, they sold off their successful extension. Okay, they're not responsible for what happens after that, and not, in my opinion, not really. Okay, but yeah, the browser companies, they should have caught this. They should have caught this a long, long time ago, and it's a shame because it's a great extension. Now, I know there's forks of it, but here's the thing. So yeah, you could get another app that does this sort of thing. Really, the only site I think the only site I really found myself using this for. Okay, there's two, actually. I'm going to mention two. There's two that I found myself ever using this for over the years. Okay, there's Facebook, which I'm not really on anymore, so that doesn't fucking matter. Okay, and you shouldn't be on. No, you should not be on there. You shouldn't be on there anyway. So Stylish for Facebook, kind of a moot point. I use it for Pirate Bay. I right now I have some real issues with what's happening with Pirate Bay. They have gone back to crypto mining when you visit their site again. Now, yes, I just use uBlock Origin and away I go, and it's no problem. But I think that the use of crypto miners, I think that's a huge problem, and I've talked about it, because it doesn't really solve shit. It creates honestly perverse incentives, and I don't say perverse in a good way. It creates perverse incentives. It does not solve the monetization of the web and of what people are trying to do on it. Not really. I've talked about this many times. Crypto miner is not okay. That is not okay. I don't have a problem with Monero, which is what crypto miner was mainly originally used for and everything. But crypto miner, not all right. So anyway, so I'd use it for Pirate Bay. A lot of sites are now allowing for a dark theme, or there's other things that allow for, a dark theme to be a part of the program. Maybe even, something at the operating system level or at the browser, as in the browser company itself level. So here's my point in saying all of this. Be very, 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 very careful what extensions you install on your browser. Because at any given time, there was a scare. Remember when LastPass got bought out? Now, fortunately, things seem to have been very hands-off. And here's, I want to touch on that. Okay, but real quick. So at any given time, some browser extension that you just love, or even some piece of software, this is a reason you want to be careful what software you use too, could end up just getting bought out by some company, and everything that piece of software or that extension is doing in the back end can completely change from what you trusted before. Okay. This was one of the major concerns that happened when LastPass ended up getting bought out a couple of years ago. Fortunately, the company that bought LastPass has seemingly been very hands-off and is not pulling a bunch of stunts, and they've left the team in charge. Facebook this has changed recently with Facebook, but it used to be, Facebook, as much as I hated when they bought Instagram, certainly fucking hated it when they bought Oculus, and so on, they were always fairly hands-off with what these companies could do. Like they wouldn't install a whole new management team. They wouldn't necessarily change the direction that they were going in. Like the reason I've felt somewhat okay with Oculus in the past is because they still have John Carmack there. Just like with LastPass, you still have the same CEO, the guy that started it, for years now. I guess maybe, I don't think it's been a decade, but it's been a long time. So, yes, when these things get bought out by another company, you look at, like I say, don't follow the money, follow the attitude. If they're keeping the original team and the original team is making overtures to say, hey, no, we're still, just continuing our mission. We just happen to be owned by this company now, then yeah, you could end up keep on using it. Okay. But if it's like a complete overhaul of the business model that they're doing, yeah, get rid of it. Stop using whatever the fuck it is. Okay. And with browser extensions, like, let's be honest, you really should only be, as far as like what you install, you should really only be installing, say, if you wanted to get stuff from the EFF, right? If they, Privacy Badger, things like that, and maybe uBlock Origin, have that on there. If you really want, and we're talking Firefox, if you really want a no script on there, okay, but that, that comes with its own challenges. They're, at best, you shouldn't have more than like, I guess maybe 4 browser extensions that you're really using, because any of those at any given time. I mean, look, SimilarWeb that bought Stylish, they've collected all this data and nobody knew it, and they still have it, and they're not going to they don't have to delete it or give it up. Like there's no legal ramifications here, necessarily in what they did, not as far as I can tell. So this is something to pay attention to, is that out of nowhere, always be aware of this. That, I mean, like, look at the companies that Amazon buys, right? Amazon could acquire a company, and then all of that data, think of like Ring Doorbell, right? Which is tons of video data and all this other stuff. Now suddenly Amazon has it. This is just a great argument of why I talk about software minimalism, okay? This is my idea. I've been talking about it for years. Software minimalism is the idea that you install as little as possible, okay, on your devices. And you do that because everything that you install becomes a potential gateway against you. Now, it doesn't just necessarily have to be a gateway in that it's something where there's a security exploit could be involved. It could be a gateway into your data itself. All right, and that's the case of what happened with Stylish. This is bad. I mean, this is really, really bad. They got a shit ton of data. Okay, and nobody knew for a year and a half that this shit was going on. Yes, like, as has been reported, you knew that this was kind of going on, but like the browser companies weren't paying attention. And if they have such a problem with it, which they do to the point that they've, removed it from their, extension repositories, why wasn't that done a year and a half ago if all of this stuff was, out in the light? I mean, you got hints of it from SimilarWeb, but I don't think people really realize it, and I don't blame them, but I fucking blame the browser companies all the way. Use Linux, and that's not that would have solved it with Stylish if you're, still using Firefox or whatever else, or Chrome. But regardless, just, you really got to pay attention to this stuff. You want to be getting into the concept of software minimalism, because this kind of shit is happening more and more. The tech giants are just buying up, as much software as they can. And eventually there isn't going to be any more new software. And that's part of why there's so many acquisitions going on, is that it's a great way to get a lot of data without having to, without raising red flags about, monopolies or other things like, or that Apple, like, how does Apple collect any kind of data? If Apple is so privacy minded, right, because they delete all of your data every 6 months or something like that, or that's sort of the claim, is that they won't hold it past 6 months. So how does Apple make it as a company if they're going to tailor things to you, but they can't actually keep your data to, any useful effect? Well, they acquire companies that do collect all of your data, and then they have it. But because it's an acquisition, because it's from another company, it doesn't have to follow the rules of what Apple sets for themselves, that they won't keep your data past 6 months. See, so you want to be really, really conscious, aware. You want to be paying attention, right? Like Harlan Ellison would say, pay attention to this, and just use as little software as you can. And it's another great argument for genuine open source software that's built by an open source community that's really not doing it for the money. For example, I'm recording this podcast on Audacity. Audacity is done by an independent community of just developers that, honestly, it's their side hustle. but it's so trusted. It's been around for so long, but they don't, it's their side hustle. They don't need to sell it. They don't need to make money off of it. They just keep developing it. And honestly, if that did happen, someone would I guarantee you somebody would fork Audacity. It'd be Audacity 2 or something, and everybody would just run to that, and that way they wouldn't have to use corporate Audacity or whatever. So just pay attention. Keep an eye on this stuff. And I'm going to try and be there for you, of course, with a tech show to try and be on top of this stuff. But yeah, delete if you have Stylish installed, fucking get rid of it right now. Do not hesitate on that at all. So, all right, I want to get into our main story, but yeah, we'll be right back with some more Sovryn tech, baby. Hey, speaking of open source software that you want to jump on, something that, well, how about this? It almost funds itself. ZenCash. This is an entire cryptocurrency blockchain platform. Okay, it's a platform. There's so much that's being done. This isn't just about cryptocurrency. This is an entire platform. I am so excited about ZenCash. I think it's phenomenal. Using ZK snarks, the latest developments in cryptography. You want to be checking this out. You go to ZenCash.com. You can get your hands on some ZenCash, okay, and then you can start taking advantage of the entire platform. I mean, I'm telling you, and I had one of the head guys, there on the show, Rob Viglione, and we were talking about it. I said, man, I could see this becoming an alternative internet. Boy, if the stories we just talked about didn't help you realize, shit, we really need that, well, here's where you can start. ZenCash.com, be a part of the peer-to-peer revolution. ZenCash.com is definitely a part of that. And again, I don't get too excited about most blockchain technologies, but this is one that I am. Go for it. ZenCash.com. And I thank them for sponsoring Sovryn Tech. Let's get back to the show. Woo!
Story of the week.
Woo! Back into action. It is time for the story of the week, and wow, do we have a story. Now, I have to tell you, so this was originally brought to my attention by a Sovryn Tech listener during a live Hangout Q&A for Sovryn Tech patrons. So you have to be a patron to be a part of it. In fact, our July live Hangout Q&A, where people can come on, they can ask questions, or they can just ask questions in the YouTube live chat, whatever, however it works out for them, is going to be on Sunday the 8th, which will be the day after this episode gets released. So you might not have the chance. It happens around 4 p.m. Eastern. You might not have the chance to become a patron and to get connected with it and everything if you want to be a part of that. But anyway, I got to thank the listener for bringing this to my attention. Because I have to admit, like, the amount of time I spend on social media is, I mean, I don't know if it can get much more minimal than what I do. And I don't feel bad about it, not for a second, because, I mean, we've talked about this so many times in the show. Like, is any of it real? Like, really? Oh, there's a story I want to tell, but I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it right now. Maybe later if I think of it and it fits. Maybe I'll save it for a Patreon episode or something. But let's talk about this. So here's what happens. This would be from June 16th, 2018. The day previous, other tweets were made, but a tweet was made. And a tweet was made. You say, oh, well, everybody makes a fucking tweet. Oh, who gives a shit about a tweet? Well, when certain people make a tweet, I think it, it raises eyebrows, and you take it with a little more than a grain of salt than you normally should. Any tweet, really, including from, from some orange guy. But Elon Musk, we're not the biggest fans of Elon Musk on Sovryn Tech. Elon Musk tweeted on June 16th, that, here it is, quote, "If you must know, I am a utopian anarchist of the kind best described by Ian Banks." Okay. Let's set a little bit of the stage on this, all right? So you have Elon Musk, which we can get into the problems with him in a second. But you got Elon Musk, definitely, this guy who, unfortunately by a lot of people, is well respected. Comes out saying that he's an anarchist. Okay. We get the Ian and Banks stuff. I mean, look, Yeah, I mean, hell, I've been called, and it's not entirely unfair to say I'm an anarchist in the vein of Ian Banks. I mean, I'm the one guy who's been telling people for years within these, individualist and liberty-styled circles about, hey, you got to read the Culture series. You got to read the Culture series. You got to read the Culture series. And I know I'm the one that told everybody about it. Okay, and I've called out when it's a little weird when you've got. What was it, a couple of years ago when you had Mark Zuckerberg was doing his little book club, book club of the month, and he recommended reading the first of the Culture books. Then you have, Jeff Bezos, who is literally making the television show, or a miniseries at least, of some part of the Culture series. We don't know which part because it's a bunch of books, okay? And now you've got Elon Musk coming out and pretty much pointing at the Culture series as well. There's a lot of oddities in that, okay? But I want you to be, aware that when I have made the claim in the past on Sovryn Tech that I think a lot of these, Silicon Valley billionaire asshats, are looking at getting to some kind of, pseudo post-scarcity future. That, well, look, all of them are pointing at the Culture series. They're all pointing at Ian Banks. I say this a million times. Who's crazy now? These guys are literally coming out and saying that, that this is their dream, right? I mean, Bezos may not be exactly saying it, but he's putting his money where his mouth is, and he's turning it into a fucking miniseries. You telling me that's not propaganda on his part? You're fucking crazy if you don't think so. And you got Zuckerberg telling people, hey, everybody, all Facebook users, you should be reading the Culture series. Yeah. Okay. Now you got Elon Musk coming out. And I mean, he's the most blatant saying, oh, no, I'm an anarchist, because the Culture series, which is a science fiction series that takes place, with the future, and you have AIs kind of controlling. I mean, I've talked about it many times on the show where there's these AIs that control this spacefaring civilization known as the Culture, where people can switch bodies and they can instantly release drugs into themselves and everything. Anyway, I'm being very basic in what I'm describing here, but it is an anarchist work. It is easily probably next to the works of Ursula Le Guin. I mean, they are probably the best-selling anarchist pieces of fiction ever made. Okay. I mean, really, that are anarchists, not libertarian, but straight anarchist. And Ian Banks is not a libertarian either. It's not, he would never claim to be a part of that. And I don't think any libertarians really want to claim him, much to my chagrin. But regardless, we're talking about Elon Musk here. So for a little background, okay, what kind of anarchist, what kind of utopian anarchist is Ian Banks? What the fuck does that even mean? Well, as somebody who's studied Banks, who is a huge fan of the Culture series, and I am, I can give you a little bit of an explanation. So for Ian Banks, and he's written essays, you could say, that describe his anarchism a little bit more, that go into more depth, and you don't have to read the entire Culture series to get what he's putting out there. I mean, not that this is weird, right? I'll admit it. I do it too. Okay. I lace my fictional works, of which there are many and many more to come. I lace it with my ideology, with what I want the future to look like. I mean, of course I do that. Everybody does that. The guy that created Wonder Woman, William Moulton Marston, he totally, I mean, admittedly, there's no doubt about it. He injected his own ideology and his own psychological work, that being disk theory, right into the Wonder Woman comic book. That was the point of creating Wonder Woman, was a way to sell his psychological model. Okay, this gets done, and granted, works of fantasy or science fiction, which is effectively speculative fiction, maybe the best term for all of that, of course, right? But these flights of fancy, shall we say, are one of the better ways to get these kind of ideas out. And obviously they're influential. I mean, you have Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Elon Musk, three of the biggest names in the world right now, not just tech, in the world, who are all kind of paying a degree of fealty to this. And I want to touch quick on the Bezos thing, because I've gotten some critiques from listeners about it. Now, look, because you can say, well, he's just going for a popular science fiction work, to make a TV series out of. No, if he wanted to just make like a great science fiction opus, because he's not going to make money on it. Okay, like understand that Amazon's Prime business model, like they are bleeding cash when they make their own content. Like it's hemorrhaging. It's terrible. Okay, he is not making money off of this. He is only investing in. Everything that gets done on Amazon Prime is pretty much a prestige production, which means that it's something to appeal to critics and maybe to fans, but it's not to make money. Okay, Hollywood does this too. Studios will make movies from time to time. They call them prestige films. Okay, where they know they're not going to make money on it. They know they're going to effectively lose money, and they'll make it up with some blockbuster that they release, in December or the next summer. But the prestige film isn't going to make it. It's just to please the damn critics or to please the fans or something like this. Okay. So everything on Amazon Prime is pretty much a prestige show. All right. So now if he wanted to throw down a ton of money, if Bezos wanted to throw down a ton of money and maybe attract more people to Prime or science fiction fans or something, you'd make the Foundation series. There's so many other science fiction series that you'd get the fucking rights to that have never been made before, long before you talk about the Culture series. And I know this because if I keep getting told that libertarians are a bunch of nerds, which I guess people don't know what that word means, but whatever. Okay. How come none of them, or very few of them, have ever heard of the Culture series? And I had to introduce you to it. But all of you know iRobot, or the Foundation series, or go down the fucking hell. You probably know the Lensman more before you know about the Culture series. It's popular, but most people don't really know about it. So no, there's a point. There's a reason he's making that. It's like I say, for lack of a better term, it's propaganda. Or if you wanted to call it like some kind of psyop to get ready for UBI and all this other shit, well, hey, maybe, because I definitely think that's part and parcel of what's going on with Elon Musk and Zuckerberg as well. But so, okay, well, let's reset. So what kind of anarchism is Ian Banks pushing with the Culture series? Well, it's not market anarchism. Okay, so all you fuckers that think Elon Musk is the second goddamn coming of, I was about to say something really mean. Okay, all of you that think he's just so damned wonderful and he's this great guy, and he's an anarchist and blah, blah, blah. Newsflash. Ian Banks was a socialist. The Culture series is wholly espousing, just fully automatic luxury communism, baby, all the way. It is socialism writ large. When you buy your Tesla, you are supporting an avowed socialist. Do you hear me? I can say that without being insulting, because I know I have listeners who are socialists, and they're probably thinking, well, shit, maybe Elon's all right. But all of you ANCAPs should be, taking the big red markers, putting an X next to his, over his face and everything, and saying that bastard, he's going to ruin everything. Are you going to do that? Are you going to please, libertarians, I want to see you lighting your Teslas on fire, because you are absolutely supporting not just a socialist, you're pretty much supporting a communist. You are. Nice job. Go ahead, email me. Tell me about it. Tell me how you feel all right with this. Because I've gotten so many emails over the years into this show where I say, no, you know what, communists listen to the show, and I don't care. And I'm all right with that. I'm not a communist, but they can come all, and give a listen. I get all this hate mail from, you're not supporting the free market, you're not this. Give Elon Musk the shit. Get in touch with him. I hope you were shitting your pants when he put out this tweet. Because he just came out and said and again, these terms can be so interchangeable. So many people have so many different definitions for this shit. Socialist, communist, whatever. Okay. But either one will fit the bill. And I think it's not unfair to put Bezos and Zuckerberg right in the same lot. You still going to say how wonderful they are? Well, anyway, so yeah, now I get what Elon Musk is saying. And I'm not necessarily saying, like I said, I've been accused of being an anarchist in the vein of Ian Banks. And I get Ian Banks's point. So here's the thing, is that Ian Banks's idea of anarchism is more or less has to wholly do with living in outer space, with not being on the Earth. Because on Earth, even though, yes, there's always scarcity, that's unavoidable. Okay, even though on Earth there is scarcity, the Earth feels pretty good for humanity, right? And it's easy for humans to get around. There's oxygen, all these, the things you need. His idea is, though, is that once you leave the Earth, once you leave the precious blue jewel, that suddenly the rules change, okay? Not that he didn't think there should be anarchism on Earth. I'm sure he felt that there should be. Okay, Ian Banks, speaking of Ian Banks. But that once you go into space, even if you, like, say, Elon Musk's dream of going to Mars, and he wants to implement, direct democracy and all this, if you go to Mars or if you're in a spaceship, whatever, once you're in a situation where outside of, say, the dome or outside of the hull of your starship or, whatever it is, okay, these harsh conditions that you are, really braving in outer space or on another planet, okay, that isn't as hospitable as the Earth. What you have is a Wild West, because without the natural hospitableness, I don't know, not hospitality, without the, the hospitableness, I'll say that, I don't even know if that's a word, but whatever, of the Earth, okay, like governments can't happen. That's Ian Banks's point, is that once you, and he's not the only one that's ever said that. I mean, you could go down a list of anarchist writers. The guy that wrote about the Taz, would say the same thing. Okay, or he would hint at the same thing, not saying that he necessarily wanted that. But once you're in space, okay, like you can't enforce law. Like the conditions are too harsh in space, or even say on Mars or whatever, unless you terraformed it. The conditions are just too harsh. You cannot you don't have the ability, to push the rule of law with as much certainty as you can, and so easily on planet Earth. Okay. But because of that same harshness, so you're going to have anarchy. Let's say let's talk about a starship for an example. Okay. You're on a starship. You have anarchy on the outside. Okay, outside of the starship, because, again, I don't care if they make laser weapons and shit like that. Once people I agree with this. Once you get into space, like, you've loosened your grip, Tarkin, okay? It's over. Once people get that taste of freedom, I mean, it's over. And we don't have the technologies to enforce laws in space. We just don't. Shut up. You can email me and say, oh, well, they're making this laser and blah, blah. Yeah, you can't point that at a million ships. Give me a break. Anyway. All right. So you have anarchy outside of the starship, right? Because you can't enforce laws. I mean, like, it becomes so impractical in the harshness of the environment of space. But on the inside, because of that harshness outside, everybody is so interdependent upon each other to make sure that everything within the starship works just so, because one screw up, boom, everybody's dead. That inside of the starship, you have a brand of socialism. Okay, so it's anarchy on the outside, socialism on the inside, even though it's a socialism colored by the freedom of anarchy. Okay, that's Ian Banks' version of anarchism. That's his utopian anarchism. And that eventually, once you get to the stars, then you can achieve some degree of post-scarcity, blah, 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 blah. And of course, it's all being run and controlled and maintained by artificial intelligence, which is ironic that Elon Musk is like really hot on Ian M. Banks. In fact, his favorite book from the series is Surface Detail, which I can understand that too. It's a great book. But it's ironic considering he's the guy that's like so afraid of AI, right? He's the poster boy that you keep pointing at every time you say, oh, well, AI is going to do this. And he's saying, oh, no, wait, we don't know. Oh, we don't know if this is going to be a good thing. When the Culture series is all about very much trusting that AI. Even though I think the Culture series, I think Ian Banks who was obviously brilliant. His outlook on artificial intelligence was, I'm not saying that he knew a whole lot about AI. He's no Marvin Minsky. Okay. But I think that he reached conclusions that many of the pioneers of AI, take Jerry Kaplan and some others, would get to, which is that, humans would still be able to make just these incredible leaps in logic that an AI would never be able to really replicate. It would take them longer to get to that point. And so throughout the Culture series, AI respects humanity because it sees that there's just certain things that are so amazing that it does, that they never want to lose it. They don't want they don't want humanity to go anywhere. So, it's the opposite of Skynet in a very real way, I suppose. And Ian Banks also, makes it very clear that the foundation, and I don't disagree with him on this, the foundation of anarchism it starts with art. I completely agree. Of course, he's not the only anarchist to ever say that, nor am I. The foundation of anarchism is art because it's the expression of the human condition, right? It makes perfect sense. Art, exploration, hedonism. Who's a big proponent of hedonism that you know? The one guy in this whole fucking grouping and social circles that's willing to even call himself one. Well, that's me. But anyway, hedonism is a major part of it. And scholarship. Those are kind of like the major things, okay? As far as, notice economics isn't a part of the program for Ian Banks, okay? And obviously he has it all take place in the far future or way up in space, blah, blah, blah. So, he can cheat the economic, perhaps what one could call the economic realities, okay? But this is the anarchism that Elon Musk claims to be espousing, is not free markets. Not all this stuff, like nothing from the Mises Institute. He's not saying that at all. Okay? So what do we do with this? Or is he making like little hints at market anarchism here and there? Well, if he is, what exactly, let's say that he is some kind of free marketeer. Does his actions point in any way towards that? Well, let's make an analysis of that. And actually, I won't make it myself. I will turn to somebody who I actually have a lot of respect for. That being William Gillis of the Center for a Stateless Society, c4ss.org. There's a link in the show notes if you want to read his entire analysis of it. But he gets into not so much that tweet about him being a utopian anarchist, even though he will touch on that as well. But another tweet is something a little more important. So I'm going to read here, and then we'll break it down and see where I agree or disagree with William on all this. So it's titled, "Is Elon Musk an anarchist? More like a libertarian Lenin?" Ooh, fighting words. Not a shock from Will. Elon Musk is trolling on Twitter. A celebrity billionaire wasting his time making inane provocations would hardly be worthy of note, but in the process, Musk has declared that his politics are in line with Ian Banks's anarcho-transhumanist utopia, and that he aspires to see a world of direct democracy. There's few spectacles like a billionaire in a labor dispute essentially fronting as a proponent of fully automated luxury communism. Yet when a number of his statements wander close to left-wing market anarchist takes, it may be worth responding. In particular, I want to focus on the line, quote, this is Elon talking, "Socialism versus capitalism is not even the right question. What really matters is avoiding monopolies that restrict people's freedom," end quote. Will goes on, "There's a lot to pick apart here, and it's not remotely clear how much historical context Musk is aware of. Free market libertarians like Bastiat sat on the left of the French Assembly, and many advocates of free markets that modern libertarians see as forefathers like Lysander Spooner and Benjamin Tucker considered themselves and were seen as, drumroll please, socialists. There is a long and storied history of those who would problematize the terms socialist or libertarian and capitalism or markets, putting forth myriad conflicting definitions and frameworks, each in hopes of illuminating something lost in partisan tribalism. But Musk is a billionaire, and in any coherent libertarian analysis, a plutocrat whose success is in no small part dependent upon his collaboration with the state. Most self-identified socialists, not to mention the chattering classes of Twitter, despise him. So I am, I don't know that I'd be a self-identified socialist, but I definitely despise him. And William is absolutely right in pointing out the fact that this guy's a plutocrat who, in no small part, like his quote-unquote success has to do literally with collaboration with the state. Okay? He is a government welfare queen. There is no question about that. And it's been my number one problem why anytime any kind of libertarian or anarchist or whatever says, "Oh man, isn't this guy great? Isn't it amazing what he's bringing into the future? Blah, blah, blah." No, he's not great. He's just taking tax dollars. I mean, and it's not like, look, I get it. There's certain jobs, okay? Like, you know, even Rothbard would talk about, well, if you want to be in science, yeah, I mean, government kind of has a monopoly over that. So if you want to work in science, you're going to be taking some government money. Okay, that's wholly different than being a businessman, starting an electric car company and sucking down tax dollars, essentially stealing, right, from all of us. Two totally different situations. Elon Musk is completely unethical in taking that money, in my opinion. Reading on. There are basically three core claims widely made against Musk. One, that he occupies a tyrannical position over his workers. Two, that the seed wealth that enabled him to become a billionaire in the first place was unjustly acquired, which we just talked about. Three, that his act of holding on to his wealth in the face of far more beneficial investments is unethical. It's this latter charge that I want to explore, in part because the former are so clear-cut. But let's hit them briefly. Musk faces charges of unsafe conditions and terrible demands at his plants. And despite his attempts to sound open to unionization, Tesla has harassed, intimidated, and fired workers, and there's links for all this stuff, folks, if you don't believe what's going on, for expressing pro-union sentiments. He claims workers prefer to have no negotiating capacity, supposedly recognizing the benevolent benefits of his absolute dictatorship. And yet in the same breath, Musk has threatened workers' benefits should they unionize, and recently initialized mass layoffs without warning. Musk has started to claim that he built his fortune from pocket change, but it's worth remembering that as a teenager, his white South African family was so rich, Musk casually walked around with emeralds in his pocket. One is reminded of nothing so much as Trump's claim that he built his fortune a mere few million dollar loan from his dad and countless risk assurances. I've known single mothers that worked longer hours and homeless heroin addicts that made smarter stock investments, but below a certain threshold of wealth, the barriers are just too great. Musk has some talent and commitment, to be sure, but he has hardly made his fortune in fair competition and with the billions without his privilege of birth. So anyway, I know you just heard the word privilege and you're freaking out. Freak out on Elon. If you're going to spend time freaking out on people, but however you acquire wealth, once you have it, there is a certain ethical obligation to wield it towards good ends. Okay, now I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, all right? I mean, first off, even when I use the term ethical and stuff like that, look, folks, there are no rules. Okay, it's all social constructs, spooks, phantasms, you pick your word for it. Okay, there are no rules. There's the rules you can set for yourself, but am I going to tell Elon how to spend his money? No. How about how he acquires his money? Well, when it comes at cost of me, and I would never choose to give money to an electric car company, or to any of Elon's ideas, even SpaceX, but it goes to him anyway. Well, then we've got a problem. Then there's a much better argument to be made. Okay. But anyway, fans of Musk argue that he has done precisely this. The most common refrain is, quote, look, he may not be perfect, but he's the only person with a shot of getting us to Mars, end quote. There is, I will concede, a rather potent utilitarian argument that getting our species out into the stars is worth almost any price. This is an evaluation that weighs the potential lives of trillions of future people against the living today that says we should do anything to ensure the survival and spread of the only known consciousness in the universe. But it is decidedly unclear that Elon Musk is truly our best shot at such. It is true that his wealth has enabled SpaceX to make serious strides, but it's hardly like the scientists, engineers, and general workers of SpaceX didn't share such a vision before Musk. Rather, his wealth enabled them to get started. As a staunch proponent of our expansion to the stars, I will happily concede that SpaceX is a more ethical investment than gold-plated bathtubs, but these are hardly the only options. Okay, so I want to talk about that. Yes, I now here's where William and I are in agreement. Fuck yeah, I get it. The idea that we need, no matter what, we need to be a two-planet species. I mean, I'd argue that we were meant to be. Okay, but yes, we need to be a multi-planet species. And we just talked about how, by the very nature of living in space and on other planets, governments become impossible to exist. Not, on a grand scale, not in the scale that you can't get away from, like it is on Earth. Okay, I get that point. I really, really understand that. But I agree with William that there's, how do we know that Elon's the best shot? In fact, maybe maybe he might even be the worst shot that we have. We don't know. Now, this is a pretty lengthy article, so I can't read the whole thing, okay, because we have other things that we need to talk about during this episode. So anyway, let me read a little bit more, and then we'll get into a further breakdown. Musk talks of supporting direct democracy, yet his projects are run tyrannically, hyper-centralized around him. One basic insight of free market economists is that there are limits to knowledge and calculation, in particular limits to what a single central planner is capable of. Musk may be talented, he may work 80 hours a week, but he is limited, and a hierarchical, centralized organizational structure is deeply inefficient, never mind the psychological damage it does. Indeed, many of the early problems Tesla faced were reportedly a result of Musk suddenly showing up to make unilateral decisions while being stretched too thin to be constantly involved in every nook and cranny. In short, his tyrannical position within the firm became an organizational bottleneck. They may have been insightful decisions, but Musk's distance from the shop floor and the absoluteness of his power caused deep organizational problems. Even the most intelligent and committed Soviet planner, running himself ragged, attempting to oversee everything, will cause deep inefficiencies. This is part of the reason why, when the playing field is fair, worker cooperatives do so damned well. Musk talks of decentralization, of avoiding monopolies, and this is valorous, but anarchism extends deeper than their mere opposition to monopolies per se. Anarchism opposes power and domination. Combating monopolies or oligopolies is necessary, but not sufficient, because hugely abusive and scarring or enslaving power can exist in diffuse structures as well. Systemic racism, for example, or normalized spousal abuse, but more to the point, an upstart firm may shatter an existing oligopolistic market, but itself reproduce the same structures it claims to oppose, not just in terms of market opposition, but especially in terms of the firm's internal structure, the hierarchical and abusive organizational norms that the existing oligopoly was able to establish and defend. A point that William will bring up in this is that, well, here, let me read this last bit. There is a widespread tendency in Silicon Valley to diagnose the problems of the world in terms of centralization alone, and thus to fall into a kind of naive support for any and all underdog competitors. Yeah, this is a huge problem. It's a huge problem in libertarianism and anarchism as well, where it's like, oh, well, but they're the underdog, we're going to root for them. Uber instantly comes to mind, and will bring them up eventually, about how, okay, wow, they disrupted the taxi business, but then Uber became fucking horrendous. I mean, absolutely horrendous. You can't argue to me. Like, you can try, but there's no argument to be made for Uber being somehow this great ethical free market company. It's just not so. It's not true. And they're eventually, they've been working with the state for years. Give me a break. Okay. So here's the thing with all of this. Now, with the idea of trying to stay away from monopolies, I almost feel like Elon Musk was a shot across Amazon's bow right there. I feel like that was far more what he was referencing as far as that goes, and what was in that statement. And there's a lot of other crazy things. I mean, it's a tweet, and it's short, and brevity doesn't always allow for clarity. So we can run into problems with all of that, with what Elon's saying. But I think William's hitting on one of the biggest problems here. Regardless of what kind of anarchism Elon Musk believes in, he thinks he's the guy to bring it on. And knowing what kind of anarchism he's into, which is a socialist style of anarchism, okay? He kind of made it unclear, because he says, like, in the style of Ian Banks. He didn't say like 100% everything that Ian Banks says. I get that, okay, but he, especially since he's also been a proponent of direct democracy and things like this, I think it's pretty clear, that he's pushing towards a certain type of socialism. But I think it's something that he really, he wants to have his own monopolistic position within bringing on this future. And there's a great point that William brings up in his article, or his write-up. And I want to read it here. I'll skip ahead. Quote, "Hey, Elon, why not donate $1 million to something like the IWW, a scrappy, idealistic, and anti-state union that organizes where no other union will go? It's nothing to you and will affect the lives of thousands while enabling labor to help compete against giant corporate monopolies. I'll rile the commies on Twitter and maybe allow Grimes to show her face in public, but mostly it'll help real existing people. I ask sincerely." So he's talking about, of course, what is it, international workers. yeah, here's the, it's the same bullshit, because libertarians are just as bad about this. Okay. You put all this money into, doing like political campaigns for Ron Paul, racist, or, whoever, whatever guy that you happen to choose, right? Whoever your hero is this year or this whatever amount of years. All of the, sometimes, like, especially when you think under, like, particularly with Ron Paul, racist, that, there would be, there's millions of dollars involved, right? And those millions of dollars could have bought, like, a city, in some part of the United States, or, there's other countries around the world that might even been a little more amenable. You could have bought your own city. And if you're going to play politics anyway, why not fucking buy an entire city? Literally, I'm saying you can buy cities for like under $1 million. They're for sale in the US. Okay. You could buy them and then you could create your little libpair. You can make your little libertarian paradise. But no, they waste their whole fucking time just trying to get some guy into Washington, D.C. instead of doing what actually works. And here's the problem too, okay, is again, just like a politician, you have Elon Musk coming in thinking he's got the answers, he knows the score, he's how all of this is going to work, okay? And so, he's not putting money where actual effectual change could happen, where even based upon the goals that he's talking about. Yeah, throw some money at the IWW. There's other organizations, throw money at them. Hell, throw money at the Free State Project if you want to put your money where your mouth is. Of course, I don't know if they'd take it because, again, Elon's a socialist. He's not, he's not actually a free market anarchist. But whatever, you people drive around your Teslas. Okay. Just throw that money around at other people that can, wage this, little war that you have where you want to get to your, fully automated luxury communism and have it on a bunch of fronts. Instead of just you. But no, you want to come in like the goddamned hero. And you should always be terrified of someone who thinks that they're a hero. You should be fucking terrified because hero complex, I usually try not to psychologize, but the hero complex is one of the easiest signs of a sick mind. Anyone that's looking to be the hero is, holy shit, like run away in fear because that is tyranny in pretty clothing. Anyone trying to be the hero. And I think that's what Elon's shooting here for. I could break it down more, but I don't know what more I need to say. This guy is not talking about creating the free market. We have no evidence whatsoever to think he even holds these principles. Okay, that he's even remotely an anarchist. We have no clue. He says some words, but does he live it? I have no evidence of that. I have no proof. And that's the thing is that, look, when you really get it, when you get anarchism, you can't help but start living it. Like people start noticing you, and maybe even hell. You've been around the awkward ones, right? When you have like they're almost like born again Christians, right? When you get your newly minted anarchists because they want to get involved in every political conversation and they're ready to say, yeah, and government's the problem. Is Elon going out there and saying government's the problem? Not really. And if he did really feel that way and he was saying all that stuff, could he stop taking their fucking money? Nope. He likes that teat a little too much, sucking on that milk, baby. Horse shit. In fact, all the evidence I have is quite to the contrary, that he's not interested in actual anarchism. And I could get into a huge conversation about debunking Ian Banks's version of anarchism. There's a lot of it that's very right. But there's also points of it that are, okay, well, how do you get there? And then how do you implement that? And there's no good answers. Look, I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I don't see this as a good thing in any way. And I don't see it as not a good thing because he's not a free marketeer. I see the problem that you've got some asshat who is thinking that, who's coming out and pretty much saying, no more governments. And and all that just seems odd anyway, right? Because, like, is the government going to, don't you think the government would go and seize, Tesla? Like, why would NASA continue to use SpaceX rockets when he's coming right out and saying that, I don't want you to exist? And that's what he's saying. Or supposedly what he's saying. When you claim you're an anarchist, that means no government. Unless he has some kind of different definition of it, which I wouldn't be surprised. No, the problem is this guy wants to be the fucking hero. Okay? And like he wants to be. I mean, there's people who, yes, there are heroes. There are people who do the great deed. There are people who, do a wonderful thing for you in your life, who save your life or do whatever else, but they're not wanting to be a hero. They just they're just being a decent person or something, or whatever the hell the situation that brings it together. But this asshat wants to be a hero. That should scare you. Anybody that wants to do that. That's why politicians scare the fuck out of me. Because everyone is like, oh, I'm going to do this. They're like, they're charging in. Like Napoleon. Yeah. That should bother you. Anyway, I have no evidence that this guy is actually an anarchist. I like how Will started it off saying, Elon's just trolling people on Twitter. Yeah, probably. It's the only explanation, because otherwise we have no evidence of this. So you can read the whole write-up. I put a link in the show notes for episode 285. It's well worth reading. William's a hell of a writer, far better writer than I am. And a guy that, again, we don't see eye to eye on everything, but I appreciate him, really like striking at this, and it was worthwhile doing. And I thank him for his service. So anyway, all right, let's take a little break, and I will be right back with some more Sovryn Tech. Stop with Elon Musk. Enough. People. Hey, you want to know what Elon can't get his hands on? You might want to look into it. How about some gold and silver, some precious metals in your hands? You get it. It's in your hands, that offline cold storage of wealth, right? Yeah, why don't you go for that? Get gold, silver, platinum, palladium, any of it. In fact, hell, you could use Bitcoin to go for it. Hey, where's Elon coming out, supporting Bitcoin if he's such a fucking great anarchist, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, well, I'll tell you. So you got to love the mindset at Roberts & Roberts Brokerage, okay? They are going to give you your hookup on precious metals. Trust me, they get it. They are on board with Sovryn Tech. They've been a long-time sponsor, okay? They are one of us. All the way. Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. You want to do business with people that know how to do business, and they do. You want great prices, great customer service with getting your precious metals? Go for it. So tell them the Golden Stallion sent you to get some gold, baby, and head over to rrbi.co. That's their website for Roberts & Roberts Brokerage, rrbi.co. Let them know I sent you, and I thank them for sponsoring Sovryn Tech. Woo! Let's get back to the show.
HackSec.
It is time for HackSec, where we talk issues of hackers and security, all that good stuff, and most of the time it's talking about security. One of the best things that you can do, really, to lock down your digital life is to not own a Tesla, which tracks you literally everywhere you go. And you could say, well, every car does that. Well, might not be far off. So, I don't know, how about you buy a pre-96 vehicle or something along those lines? I mean, there's answers to all this stuff, but sure as fuck don't want a Tesla. Not with that dictatorial ass hat. Anyway, dictator. Yeah, you know what that sounds like. All right, so fuck. Where was I? Well, speaking of tracking, I think this is a point we don't drive home enough. In fact, I don't know. It's probably only every 2 or 3 years with this show. I remember one of the very early episodes of Sovryn Tech, we talked about the dangers of televisions. Okay, now I don't mean of like actually watching TV. I mean of the TV technology itself. Okay, because I've watched tons of TV in my life, and I turned out all right. Would you like a second opinion, Mr. Sovryn? No, thank you. No second opinion at this time. So, someone get Elon a second fucking opinion. Anyway, so we talked about that. Then there was the situation. Who was it, from Citizen 5 or whatever? Or was it Citizen? Whatever. Anyway, there was the alarm sounded that televisions or your smartphone was actually listening to what you were watching on television, and then, like, say, the Twitter app would feed you relevant or quote unquote relevant ads based upon what you were watching on TV, or based upon what your smartphone heard you watching on TV, which I think that's more or less been proven that something to that effect does occur. But regardless, I think a lot of people are probably thinking, well, okay, I'm going to put an ad blocker on, I'm going to do all this stuff you're doing, and good for you. Like if you're taking advantage of all of the concepts, ideas, and apps and software that we recommend on this show, bravo. Okay, I'm not insulting you whatsoever, but the computer is just one front on this little situation with corporatism that we have on the planet Earth, okay? And what I want to bring to your attention, once again, is just how much are TVs actually, taking on, or taking away, I should say, your privacy, all right? And privacy, without privacy, you don't actually have security, right? I mean, you can have security without it, but it's not, the amount of security that really you should have. Okay, without privacy. Anonymity is another key to that. They're all, I call them kissing cousins: anonymity, privacy, and security. You want all of that, to where you have a complete package, okay, of what actual security can be when it comes to tech. Okay, as far as in life, that's a whole other situation. Like, is there such a thing as life being safe? No, that's outrageous. But anyway, so this from, of all things, the New York Times, which is hilarious because, well, I think there's an importance to why the New York Times is sounding the alarm on this, but they're raising great points, so I want to read it anyway, but then I'm going to talk about where I'm going to call bullshit on the New York Times. So here we go. How smart TVs in millions of homes, or millions of U.S. homes, track more than what's on tonight. The growing concern over online data and user privacy has been focused on tech giants like Facebook and devices like smartphones, but people's data is also increasingly being vacuumed right out of their living rooms via their televisions, sometimes without their knowledge. In recent years, data companies have harnessed new technology to immediately identify what people are watching on internet-connected TVs, then using that information to send targeted advertisements and other devices in their homes. Marketers, forever hungry to get their products in front of the people most likely to buy them, have eagerly embraced such practices, but the companies watching what people watch have also faced scrutiny from regulators and privacy advocates over how transparent they are being with users. Okay, a couple of quick points. One, you're going to tell me, well, in the free market, or, the market solution is don't buy an internet-connected TV. Good fucking luck. Good fucking luck buying one of those, finding one of those. You are going to have a much easier time getting a pre-96 car than you will buying a TV that's not internet-connected. Kiss my ass when you say that. I'm sorry, the market does not solve everything. I mean, yeah, we don't have a free market right now, but then also we never have, so where's your evidence? Regardless. So, the internet-connected TVs, pretty much all of them are now. Pretty much, okay? I mean, you could tell people to buy a computer monitor instead. Sure, you can tell people to do that, but are they going to understand that? And are they going to pay the markup to get like a computer monitor at, a 40-inch computer monitor when, that costs twice as much as a 40-inch whatever LED TV, whatever the latest technologies are in TVs anymore? I don't even pay that much attention to them. No, the average person's not going to do that because they're buying it with their fucking tax return anyway. Expect them to understand this? Anyway, also, the second point, targeted advertisements. Look, targeted advertisements, you say, that's better ads for me. No, it's better tracking on you. Yes, it is. Talk about hackers? Ask an honest hacker. They'll tell you that some of the best ways to track you is through targeted ads. Absolutely. The alphabet soup organizations, you take your pick of which one, NSA, CIA, AT&T, whoever, okay? They absolutely track you through your targeted ads. So, I mean, great. You toss over your privacy so that you can get a better deal on Tide. All right. Wow. Well, no wonder you're a fan of Elon Musk. I mean, you don't live by your principles either. Great. So, reading on. Let's see. Samba TV is one of the bigger companies that track viewer information to make personalized show recommendations. The company said it collected viewing data from 13.5 million smart TVs in the United States, and it has raised $40 million in venture funding from investors, including Time Warner, the cable operator Liberty Global, well, that's funny, and the billionaire Mark Cuban, who also, for some reason, gets held up. Well, anyway. Samba TV has struck deals with roughly a dozen TV brands, including Sony, Sharp, TCL, and Philips, to place its software on certain sets. When people set up their TVs, a screen urges them to enable a service called Samba Interactive TV, saying it recommends shows and provides special offers, quote, by cleverly recognizing on-screen content, end quote. But the screen, which contains the enable button, does not detail how much information Samba TV collects to make those recommendations. Samba TV declined to provide recent statistics, but one of its executives said at the end of 2016 that more than 90% of people opted in. Once enabled, Samba TV can track nearly everything that appears on the TV on a second-by-second basis, essentially reading pixels to identify network shows and ads, as well as programs on Netflix and HBO, and even video games played on the TV. Samba TV has even offered advertisers the ability to base their targeting on whether people watch conservative or liberal media outlets and which party's presidential debate they watched. The big draw for advertisers, which have included Citi and JetBlue in the past and now Expedia, is that Samba TV can also identify other devices in the home that share the TV's internet connection. Samba TV, which says it has adhered to privacy guidelines from the Federal Trade Commission, does not directly sell its data. Instead, advertisers can pay the company to direct ads to other gadgets in a home after their TV commercials play, or one from a rival airs. Advertisers can also add to their websites a tag from Samba TV that allows them to determine if people visit after watching one of their commercials. If it sounds a lot like the internet, a company with a little name recognition tracking your behavior, then slicing and dicing it to sell ads, that's the point. But consumers do not typically expect the so-called idiot box to be a savant. Quote, it's still not intuitive that the box maker or the software embedded by the box maker is going to be doing this, end quote, said Justin Brookman, Director of Consumer Privacy and Technology Policy at the advocacy group Consumers Union, and a former policy director at the FTC. Quote, I'd like to see companies do a better job of making that clear and explaining the value proposition to consumers, end quote. About 45% of TV households in the United States had at least one smart TV at the end of 2017, IHS market data showed. Samba TV, which is based in San Francisco and has about 250 employees, competes against several companies, including Inkscape, the data arm of the consumer electronics maker Vizio, and a startup called Alfonso. It can be a cutthroat business. Samba has sued Alfonso for patent infringement. Last year, Vizio paid $2.2 million to settle claims by the FTC and the state of New Jersey that it was collecting and selling viewing data from millions of smart TVs without the knowledge or consent of set owners. In December, New York Times reported that Alfonso was using gaming apps to gain access to smartphone microphones and listen for audio signals in TV ads and shows. Like I said, that had been proven that absolutely yes. There are apps that are listening for ads from your television. Okay. Samba TV's language is clear, said Bill Dottie, a spokesman. Quote, each version is clearly identified that we use technology to recognize what's on screen to create benefit for the consumer as well as Samba, its partners, and advertisers, end quote, he added. Still, David Kitchen, a software engineer in London, said he was startled to learn how Samba TV worked after encountering its opt-in screen during a software update on his Sony Bravia set. The opt-in read, quote, interact with your favorite shows. Get recommendations based on the content you love. Connect your devices for exclusive content and special offers. By cleverly recognizing on-screen content, Samba Interactive TV lets you engage with your TV in a whole new way, end quote. The language prompted Mr. Kitchen to research Samba's TV data collection and raise concerns online about its practices. Enabling the service meant the consumers agreed to Samba TV's terms of service and privacy policy, the opt-in screen said. But consumers couldn't read those unless they went online or clicked through to another screen on the TV. The privacy policy, which provided more details about the information collected through the software, was more than 4,000 words, and the terms exceeded 6,500 words. The thing that really struck me, quote, the thing that really struck me was this seems like quite an enormous ask for what seems like a silly, trivial feature, end quote, Mr. Kitchen said. Quote, you appear to opt into a discovery recommendation service, but what you're really opting into is pervasive monitoring on your television, end quote. Ashwin Navan, Samba TV's chief executive, said the company's use of data for advertising is made clear through the reference to special offers and that the opt-in language is meant to be as simple as it possibly can be. Quote, it's pretty upfront about the fact that this is what the software does. It reads what's on the screen to drive recommendations and special offers, Mr. Navin said. We've taken an abundance of caution to put consumers in control of their data and give them disclosure on what we use the data for, end quote. Jeffrey Chester, executive director of the Center for Digital Democracy, said few people review the fine print in their zeal to set up new televisions. He said the notice should also describe Samba TV's device map, which matches TV content to mobile gadgets according to a document on its website, and can help the company track users in their office, in line at the food truck, and on the road as they travel. The point that they're bringing up, Stallion breaking in, is that no, you're not explaining what exactly this does. It should be, I mean, here's the thing, like, to say it as simply as you can, okay, people, what was his name at Samba there, Mr. Navin? Just say, look, if you opt into this, we're going to know where you are, whenever you are, wherever you are, at any given moment. Just come out and say that straight up. But that's not what you say. Right? Because you know that would terrify the fuck out of people, and, well, at least I hope it would, and they would, toss their TV, out the window. That's what I'd hope. And say, wait a minute, I paid $2,000 for this privilege to be tracked everywhere. That's the most hilarious thing, is that, all of this all of this data to serve better, advertisements and everything. I mean, it's fucking hilarious. Like, you're paying already so much for a lot of these televisions. And I know you got something like TCL or whatever, companies like that try to sell budget televisions, and that maybe, this was effectively malware, or what they would call ad tech, but it's effectively malware, certainly on your life, that would offset the cost, and that's why they can sell you a impressive 4K television for only, a few $100s. Right? That's the argument. But some of the, like Sony they don't slash prices. They charge you top dollar. But you're also, so they're taking all of the extra money from all the data that they collect about you. Okay. They're just making that on top. You're not even getting the deal like TCL will give you. And I'm not saying that that's okay. But what do you care? You got to watch TV, right? Game of Thrones is on. So, fuck my liberty. I don't care. Anyway, it goes on, and it keeps talking about it. And kind of the main point that they're bringing up, in fact, here, this is hilarious. So there's a point where they're talking to, Mr. Dottie said the Trade Commission held up Samba TV as, meaning the FTC, as, quote, an exemplary model of data privacy and opt-in policies, end quote, pointing to its participation in a smart TV workshop the agency held late in 2016. Commission spokeswoman said that it invited a diverse array of panelists to events and that, quote, an invitation to participate in an FTC event does not convey an endorsement of that company or organization, end quote. She added the agency does not endorse or bless companies' practices. Mr. Dottie added, quote, we have millions of viewers who have explicitly opted into our service and have continued to use it for years. So it is a fair argument to make that far more consumers are satisfied with Samba than surprised by it, end quote. Some worry, though, the article goes on, more broadly about the TV industry's increasing ability to use and share information about what people are watching with the internet and ecosystem. Quote, I think people have rebelled to the online targeted ad experience, end quote, Mr. Brookman said. And I think they wouldn't necessarily expect that from their TV, end quote. So, and that's really it, is that, yeah, there's a lot of people who are getting really aware of this. They're using ad blockers. That's why companies are so afraid of them. They're doing all this other stuff, to stave off, okay, yeah, this online advertising, this is getting nuts. I can't even look at a web page anymore. But most people don't realize their TVs are all doing the same exact fucking thing. And it's just going to keep getting more and more egregious. And advertisers themselves, now it's pretty much a fact. Advertisers are coming out and saying, hey, actually Google and Facebook ads aren't working for me at all. Not for companies that actually have full-on advertising budgets, right? Okay, for the little niche and stuff like this, maybe it's somewhat working for you, okay? But for, you take Procter & Gamble and the research they did in marketing, and they found out Facebook is full of shit with what they're saying. And a lot of these big companies are going back to television because that's where they're able to get some, they think that advertising is working. But now, why is it working on television? Is it because of things like Samba TV? It's just as bad. Any of these devices, this is the problem with IoT, right? It's one of our old sayings on the show, and I didn't invent it, that Steve Gibson did. S stands for security. And where is S in IoT? There is no S in IoT, right? Because there's no security there. And like I said, privacy, that's a part of security. Okay, if you want actual security. Now, the irony here is, is that you have the New York Times, who wholly relies today, or not wholly, but largely relies upon, kind of ad impressions and subscription models on the internet. Okay, New York Times doesn't want you in front of the television. So what a shock that they're writing an anti-television piece today. Color me surprised. Okay, so they're full of shit too. New York Times isn't any kind of hero in all this. But these TV companies, and the article makes the point, if you want to read the whole thing, links in the show notes. The article makes the point that these manufacturers are making it as hard as possible for you to even, say they do offer you the option to turn off this tracking feature or this better ads feature or whatever. They bury it so that you can barely find it. You pretty much have to be a programmer to be able to even see it. I mean, these are really, really ugly practices that they're engaging in. Okay, they are not being pro-consumer. Oh, we give you the option. Where's the option? Is it right at the beginning? And for security's sake, like any actual security researcher would tell you that the default is to turn any kind of data collection off? Is that the default? Oh, no. No, the default is just to make sure you click I accept. Not that it's automatically turned off. Problem. So my point in saying this, if you are taking your security seriously and you're diving deep into what your mobile device can do and you're diving deep into what your laptop can do and what kind of data it's collecting about you and what kind of gateways and exploits you're allowing for into your digital life, I want you to take a good, hard look at the boob tube, because that could be far worse than your smartphone or your laptop. It could be. We'll be right back with some more Sovryn tech. Maybe we'll lighten it up a little bit.
Got an energy spike. Pull back! Launch. Now! Bombing the Narn back to the Stone Age wasn't enough for you?
Then we heard it. The sound of something terrible being born.
This is madness.
Station 3 to Commander Ivanova.
Centauri have launched a full-scale assault.
Time is come and gone! It's our turn now!
2 million tons of spinning metal, all alone in the night. A world where empires rise and fall, where dreams are born and die. Where war and hatred are challenged by love and faith. In the third age of mankind, an age plagued by an evil empire that seeks to destroy humanity. It is our last, best hope for peace, for victory, for freedom. It is Babylon 5.
Babylon 5 is available for download on your favorite torrent site. See it now to experience the greatest show in television history. Babylon 5.
The Climax.
Woo, all right. So we are running, well, it's running a little late, shall we say. So I'm not going to be able to get into Game Talk or the Wildcard segment like I planned, and we're going to get right into the Climax here. So, but what I did want to say earlier, I said today, July 7th, is actually a very special day. Well, here's the thing, and it's a special day for me, and it's on the Sovryn Tech calendar, because 22 years ago today, July 7th, I guess it'd be 1996, okay? It was a Sunday. It was a Sunday night, and an amazing thing happened. It's called Bash at the Beach, WCW. Oh, yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Wrestling. Hulk Hogan comes out. Looks like he's going to save the day, right? Looks like, oh, here comes the hero. This guy is going to be the hero. Oh, no. Hulk Hogan's way too smart for that. What does he do? He comes out and he becomes the villain, baby, and starts the NWO. Woo! One of the greatest moments in history. Not just wrestling. You don't understand. The NWO was fucking... You had to be alive in 96. This is not what we're going to talk about for the Climax, okay? I'm just bringing it up because it really is an important day. If you were there in 96, from like 96 to around 2000, like NWO shit was everywhere. I mean, it was just everywhere. Like, wrestling was huge in the 90s anyway, but like really, everything was labeled NWO. Hell, there might have been a cereal, Breakfast of Villains. I don't know. Oh, I love the NWO. Such a huge fan. I'm still a huge fan. I loved it even when they came back, in 2003, or when they came back in No Way Out into the WWE. I mean, oh man, was that 03? No, that was later on. Sorry, I was thinking of the wrong No Way Out. The 2003 No Way Out was something else. Anyway, when they came back, bottom line. Maybe it was. I don't know. It doesn't matter. So a huge fan of NWO. And yeah, July 7th, 1996, day that will live in infamy, as Mean Gene Okerlund would say back then. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Hulk Hogan, and then, or Hollywood Hulk Hogan he would become. And then, of course, later you'd find out Eric Bischoff was also in on the game. And, of course, it's all fake because it's wrestling, but you got to love it, man. So anyway, I'm not here to talk about that. I am here to do a review. And it's been out for a couple weeks now, so I think it's a little more safe to do the review, and there's not a total need, I think, to do a hot take on this, because pretty much everybody's going to go see this, okay? Because it is part of a franchise that has been so magical since 1994, and just it appeals to every demographic. Every demographic. That's all there is to say. You don't have to say every age group, blah, blah, blah. I mean, kids are going to see it. And the toy lines are hot, right? But, and adults are going to see it. I mean, there's a magic. There's a genuine magic to this. And we, of course, are talking about the sequel to, is that 2016's or 2015's Jurassic World? Or maybe that's 2016. Anyway, huge movie, right? Jurassic World was massive. It was this monstrosity. I think it's still well within the top 10 of highest grossing films of all time now. I mean, and it was a great movie. I think Stephanie and I reviewed it on Sovryn Tech back when it first came out. Like, I was stunned at just how great it was. Of course, I was a big fan of Jurassic Park 3. I know a lot of people didn't necessarily like that and they think it killed the franchise. No, I think The Lost World killed the franchise. Not that that was like a terrible movie necessarily either. I mean, it has its merits. But I thought the original Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 3 were fantastic. And they're probably still my top two favorite. Jurassic World certainly sits at the number 3 spot as far as what is now a five film franchise. But, right? Yeah, 5? Yes, yeah, 5. Lost World would sit at the bottom of that, and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, not as good as Jurassic World. Okay, I'll say that outright. We're going to dive deeper into the film. Okay, but Jurassic World, a Fallen Kingdom, not as good as the first Jurassic World. And the real reason for that, we'll dive into more technicals here, but I think the real reason for that is that you don't, or at least for me, why I didn't, I mean, it's a good, all right, I shouldn't say, I say it's not as good as Jurassic World. It's still a great movie. Like, I really, really loved it. And I am going to happily see it again in theaters. Okay. And watch it probably, well, maybe over and over again. I don't know. 1, 3, and Jurassic World I can kind of watch over and over again. Fallen Kingdom, I don't know if this is one that I could just keep watching over and over again like those other 3. But regardless, Fallen Kingdom was great. Yeah, it wasn't as good as Jurassic World, but it was great. The reason I don't think it hit as well as Jurassic World is that you don't get what I think made Jurassic Park really amazing, okay, wasn't the last 45 minutes or the last hour of the film. All of the drama and the action and everything and running away from the T-Rex at the end of the first Jurassic Park, that's not what lit audiences on fire. No. In 1994, in the 90s, what lit audiences on fire, what made them have to go see that movie, was the fact that the dinosaurs looked so amazing, and it was such a beautiful experience to actually go through Jurassic Park itself for the first 45 minutes of the movie. That's what I think really hit people, whether they realize it or not. I know that that's what did it for me, but I also think for most people, whether they realize it or not, that's what did it for them. It wasn't so much all the action and everything, Nedry running away, getting attacked by the Dilophosaurus. Not that wasn't cool or interesting and, wild to watch, but really it was just being able to experience, okay, no, what would actually this peaceful life be like with dinosaurs in our midst? And Jurassic World, a few years ago, hit that. It opened up like that, and it gave you that experience of what things could be like, and especially when you reintroduce this, incredible species or multitude species that or I guess animal class, if you could call it that existed at one time on planet Earth. And yes, it did. Sorry, it's not a trick of Satan. So Fallen Kingdom does not give you that. And I think that's why it doesn't hit as well. The other thing, too, it doesn't just not give you that. Now, the opening sequence, spoiler alerts, I guess, okay? The opening sequence does give you a dinosaur, but then it's a long slug until you get more dinosaurs. Like, you're going a good 30, 40 minutes with pretty much no dinosaurs. And that's a failure. That's a mistake. Okay, you got it. I mean, that's the reason I love Jurassic Park 3 was because they made no bones about it. We're just going to toss every fucking dinosaur we can at you, and because that's what you were going to see. That's what people thought was so. That was the marketing for the first Jurassic Park, right? Is like you're going to believe that dinosaurs are real. That they exist now. Like they're going to look so real to you. It's just going to be mind-boggling. And that's what they sold it on. And Jurassic Park 3, I think, delivered on that. And I think you make a mistake when you make a Jurassic Park film that concentrates. It's just like Transformers. Like, why the fuck are you concentrating on Shia LaBeouf, instead of Megan Fox? Oh, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Why are you concentrating on Shia LaBeouf and not on fucking Optimus Prime? Like, nobody gives a shit about the humans. We want to see the robots. We want to see the Transformers. Okay. And so the same thing with the Jurassic Park movies. Give us the dinosaurs. Don't waste time, with the humans. Okay, the humans they're not the centerpiece, they're just some accoutrement to the side. So I think that's where Fallen Kingdom falls. Okay, is that it concentrates way too much on the humans. They think that for some reason we actually care about Chris Pratt or Bryce Dallas Howard's character when we don't. We just don't give a shit. They're just there to be our eyes to see the dinosaurs. They're not there as like, wow, what a cool character. Because I didn't think that at all. Like, oh, wow, boy, Chris Pratt, man, his character is fucking awesome. And we get Jeff Goldblum back in this one, but that's kind of BS. And Jeff Goldblum doesn't give a shit about anything anymore. And you don't really get, I don't think he even listens to a director. He's just like, yeah, I'm Jeff Goldblum. I'll go out there and do that. And I can respect that kind of attitude in one sense, but then in the other, yeah, give me something, So, anyway, yeah, it spends a little too much time on the humans, but the dinosaur action, rock solid. There's some really, really great stuff going on with that. Now, some of what I'm about to talk about was a part of every trailer, so I'm not really spoiling anything. This movie does copy, in my opinion, one of my other major problems with it. Okay, while we're talking about problems, then we'll get into the good stuff. One of my other major problems with it is it copied a lot of beats from Jurassic World, which I think was a mistake. It also, some of it felt like Lost World, which not saying that that's a mistake, because if you want to copy beats from like a previous trilogy of the franchise that you're making, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Obviously, Star Wars does that from time to time, among other film franchises. Okay, but so I don't mind it copying Lost World so much, because there's points where like scenes almost felt lifted from that movie. Caravans and all these other things. But I do have a problem where you could tell that they were trying to recapture moments that happened, even with different dinosaurs, but that happened in Jurassic World. So probably the biggest thing in Jurassic World, and in my opinion, the greatest scene and what makes the movie really, or the only other part of it besides the first 40 minutes of it that makes it eminently rewatchable, and again, I'm talking about Jurassic World, is the fight between the T-Rex, the Velociraptors, and Indominus Rex. Okay, but more or less it's the T-Rex versus Indominus Rex. I mean, and I think I said it when I did the review of Jurassic World a couple of years ago. That's one of the greatest fight sequences in the past 20 years of films. I mean, it's tremendous. Here's a spoiler alert. I mean, you have, first off, they're even copying like this idea of creating a super dinosaur like they did with the Indominus Rex in Jurassic World, and they give you the Indoraptor. Now, in the abstract, I don't have a problem with that idea. In fact, I think it's cool. In fact, I look up, there's an Indoraptor right next to me. I already have one of the the finer, and it's really articulated too, or it has a lot of points of articulation, I should say. I picked one of those up. So, I mean, he's kind of big too. But anyway, yeah, the Indoraptor, cool idea. The thing is that it feels too much like you're trying to copy the sense of dread that you had with the Indominus Rex, which I thought was great in Jurassic World. Like the idea, the concept of making Indominus Rex was a brilliant fucking move for the franchise. Okay, like that is totally the way to go. If anything, I mean it's pretty much like it's the Death Star scenario, And there's nothing wrong with making a second Death Star. I think that's a fine idea. The thing is that to do it in the second movie, because they're going to give Colin Trevorrow, who wrote and he didn't end up. Trevorrow didn't direct this one. That it was J.A. Boyana that directed Fallen Kingdom. But if I was Trevorrow, especially when you're trying to take on Star Wars, and honestly, Jurassic Park is one of the few franchises that can actually do that because it has the same level of prestige, and really like style, and also like advancing of the industry itself, because Jurassic Park totally advanced the movie industry as far as CGI goes and things like that. Whether or not you think that's for the better, that's another conversation entirely. Okay, but regardless. Yeah, I would not have brought in the Indoraptor, which again I think is a great idea. I would not have brought that in the second film. That's something you do in the third film, right? This movie's doing plenty of money. There's obviously going to be a third film. In fact, there's a post-credit sequence, and shockingly, it's a post-credit sequence at the literal end of the credits. Like, it's not in the middle, and there's not multiple ones. There's just one at the end, and it's kind of a shitty post-credit sequence, but I mean, at the very least, it's telling you, yeah, we can do a third, and that's fine. This is a movie that, and I don't necessarily have a problem with this, okay? And this is, I guess, getting into some degree of spoiler territory. So, yeah, there was another point I wanted to make. Okay, before I get to that point with the Indoraptor. So you end up with this fight sequence between Blue, the Velociraptor that Chris Pratt's character trained in Jurassic World, Blue versus the Indoraptor. You pretty much have like this epic fight scene, okay? The thing is it felt like, once again, they're copying the beats too soon from what was done in Jurassic World, whereas the Indominus Rex versus the T-Rex, right? You could just tell they were trying to copy that. And it felt like a copy. And so it didn't land as well. It didn't hit as well as when you had, as when it was the T-Rex versus Indominus Rex. Like, it kind of felt cheap to me. So I was disappointed by that. Not the idea in the abstract's great, but do it in the third film, not in the second one. The second one's got to set us a bit of a different stage. And you sort of get a different stage, but not exactly. I mean, the movie even ended the same way, where instead of the T-Rex being the one that does the big roar at the end and brings on the credits, it's Blue, the Velociraptor. I mean, like, they copied so many notes from Jurassic World. This was a very safely made movie, and it worked. I mean, it was still very good. It was still great, all right? But it wasn't as great and original and as exciting. It wasn't nearly at the same levels as Jurassic World was as far as all of that goes. Okay, now, as far as some of the kind of the ideas in this was a very politically charged film. Okay, there were a lot of jabs at politicians and about politicians being spiritual, obvious jabs at the Orange Guy administration. I mean, like, they're like painfully obvious, and even when they're showing like news clips, read the ticker going across, because there's some hilarious shit in that. And exactly, there's one point where it's showing the BBC News, and like there's the little news ticker going across the bottom, and it says, U.S. President says, how do we know dinosaurs even existed? It was, I mean, lots of little jabs like that. And also there's a kind of a broader, I think, environmentalist, and I don't always say environmentalist. Well, I think, as I say often on Sovryn Tech, ecology is a genuine science. Okay, environmentalism is a bit of a cult, and a bit is being nice, I think. But regardless, that doesn't mean I don't have environmental concerns. I most certainly do. I don't mind this, but they got a little heavy-handed with the idea that the humans suck. Now, I mean, as far as characters within a movie, and as far as with the movie, yes, the humans do suck. We want dinosaurs. That's why we're going to see a Jurassic Park movie. Okay, but humans don't suck. Right. Well, I might eat my words there, but you get my point. is that not all humans are evil, okay? But this movie was really hitting at, like, okay, wipe out the humans, let the dinosaurs take it back over, blah, blah, blah. Like, that was definitely an abstract, like, there was really an environmentalist kind of, like, message going on in this movie. Now, I get it, and I might not even necessarily be opposed to it, because I can be a bit misanthropic, okay? and there are days, far too many days, where I'm like, yeah, if a T-Rex just... I jest, in part. But regardless, that's a part of it. It's just, this is definitely a politically charged film, like, and it doesn't need to be, but it's a lot of the politics, including the jabs at the orange guy, like, I agree with. So, I guess that makes it because of my bias, I let it go, but I'm aware of it at the same time. And I think it's important to be aware of it. But let's talk a little bit about the good things with the film. Again, it played it safe. And it gave us, when it does give us dinosaurs, it does a great job of it. The only flaw is that it tries to hit, like, almost shot for shot the same beats as Jurassic World. But, it's enough to where you feel like, okay, no, this is actually pretty cool. And then you get into a huge story around human cloning. That becomes a part of this, and that's probably going to expand more. This movie really set up, and this is also a saving grace for the film, I think, is that it really set up a franchise. Like, as to where Jurassic World, I think they were trying to, like, test the waters. Hey, are people still going to be into this? Is this going to take back off? As to where I think this movie laid the groundwork for some new stuff. But again, its main problem is it laid that groundwork while copying beats from the previous successful film too closely, too soon. Okay, again, too soon. If you want to copy it all in the third movie, go ahead. But in the second movie, it just feels too fresh and cheap. Or, it's too fresh and so it's too cheap. Now, so, those elements come into it. So there's some storylines that are getting set up that I'm excited for, and that I want to see, I definitely want to see a third one. Okay, I'm ready for more Jurassic World, absolutely. And Stephanie loved it too. She really enjoyed the hell out of it. The music, Michael Giacchino knocked it out of the park, as he does. I mean, I think Michael G is easily the best modern or younger composer, even though he's not like the youngest guy. I think he's the best of the newest breed of composers, as compared to, say, the Jerry Goldsmiths, the John Williamses, and Basil Polderies, and guys like that. The new blood, Michael Giacchino is the man. And he delivers completely with this. Of course, he has a lot of great work to work with from John Williams' classic score. And I mean, just like, with Jurassic Park 3, Alan Silvestri had great stuff to work with. Okay. But anyway, Giacchino does a great job as far as the music goes. No argument or problem there. And that's worth bringing up because, like I saw Solo again today. I mentioned that earlier, that I saw Solo, A Star Wars Story, for the second time. The music felt a little bit better because, like, now I kind of got the point of the story the music was trying to tell, but that music is still piss poor. That is going to easily be the least listened to Star Wars soundtrack that I'll ever own. It's pretty much bad. Like, it's serviceable, but for Star Wars, that equates to bad. And so, especially when you have such classic themes to deal with, which, the composer for Solo Star Wars Story took advantage of here and there, but when you put it in the hands of a master like Michael Giacchino, and when he takes John Williams' works, I mean, he just takes it to the heights. It's so good. So it's important to bring up the music, especially when in other films it's been shitty, frankly. So to hear a great score was was comforting for me in modern Hollywood. But I expected nothing less from Giacchino, of course. So the direction, fine. Acting, fine. J.A. Boyana, I mean, just directed it. There was no real issue there. The acting was perfectly fine. No real problems. I mean, Goldblum was Goldblum. It was nice to see James Cromwell again. Of course, he always does fantastic. That was really cool. And Chris Pratt was fine. Bryce Dallas Howard. Fortunately, she wasn't wearing high heels throughout this whole film. That was good to see. So some corrections made, some problems solved from the first from Jurassic World. I do have to. In fact, I'd love for you to get in touch with me. You can email me, bbs@sovereigntech.com. Okay. Did Chris Pratt look like his face was CGI'd half the time. It really looked like it. I think ever since the whole Justice League fiasco with Henry Cavill as Superman and the mustache and all that, I think a lot of people are looking out for that now. I haven't bothered to look online if anyone else noticed that. He didn't look normal. He didn't look right. Something seemed off about the way Chris Pratt looked in this most of the time in this movie. But I can't really knock anything off of it because I don't know the reality around that situation. So. The acting was otherwise the acting was great. I had no complaints. Everything like really, really hit and delivered. The dinosaurs, the effects were beautiful. They've got showing dinosaurs on the screen down to a science of all things. But I would love to see feathered dinosaurs next time around. Maybe they could kind of evolve a little bit and then they'll have their feathers like that. That would be interesting. And I think that would actually become a challenge to some degree for CGI to make that look super hyper realistic, which is what Jurassic Park is known for doing with dinosaurs. I would be intrigued to see that get resolved. But anyway, I did still like the idea of turning Blue, the Velociraptor Blue, into kind of this heroic character. I thought that the Indoraptor was a really cool idea. Like, say, in the abstract, I think it's great. I just think it was too soon. Like they should have saved that kind of creation for the third film. Or I don't know, maybe they're going to have some kind of hybrid between the Indoraptor and the Indominus Rex. Because I thought the Indominus Rex was so cool in the first in Jurassic World. I thought that was just a brilliant fucking idea. They really, really like that made that movie in a very real way, because you created a genuine villain, and one that you could also like cheer for at the same time, which is what the first Jurassic Park did with the T-Rex, right? So that was a winner. The Indoraptor I didn't feel the Indoraptor was as cool as Indominus Rex. Like the idea, again, it was too soon to revisit that idea. But in the abstract, it is a cool idea, and I loved seeing it. And the fact that the dinosaur was all black and everything, that was kind of cool. There was a scene where they're showing off the Indoraptor, and I'll admit, like, and it's I'll just say it. I'll put it this way. So potential spoiler alert. It's a room full of asshats. Let's put it that way. I kind of wish they just let that thing loose on him. That would have been pretty. So, that's the hard part. Like, you're rooting for you're going to see a dinosaur movie, so you kind of root for the dinosaurs, right? But yeah, lots of dinosaurs to love in it, and not as, I don't think the cast was as strong. Again, it hits a lot of the same beats as Jurassic World. Just all of it didn't hit the same. It didn't hit with the same strength that it did the first time around. And that's what makes this a little bit of a lesser film. So if I'm going to give it a score out of 10, I'm probably going to give us like a really solid 7, which is great. 7 is not bad at all, but maybe a 7.5. I'm going to give it like that, as to where I'd give Jurassic World probably a 9. I love that movie. That was so well done. But yeah, lots of cool stuff. Too many humans in this. Too many humans, and it's ironic because like one of the kind of prevailing messages of the film is there's too many humans, or the humans got to go. It's just weird. Anyway, so I hope that there's more. I'll wrap this up now. All of that said, I really want a lot more from this franchise. I think Colin Trevorrow, Robin, and I have talked about this on Patreon with the Star Wars update, where we've talked about how there's been a lot of evidence to suggest that, like opposing movie studios to Disney have really been wanting, Colin Trevorrow to like go after Disney and to take on Star Wars, to take on the juggernaut. And I think Jurassic Park is the one that can do it. And it can forgive a little bit of a misstep that this movie was. And it's just a little bit of a misstep. Okay. And a third movie could come in and, clean all that up and give us a very, very exciting franchise. And I could see prequels happening. That's certainly, as many sequels were lined up with this movie, I think prequel ideas were also put into play, and I want all of it. Like, let's have it. This is a movie series that I think could take on Star Wars in a very, very real way. It had a little bit too long of a time in between Jurassic World and Jurassic Park 3. I think you missed a generation that you could bank on because Star Wars can bank on like 3 or 4 different generations of humans, to play on their nostalgia. Jurassic Park like missed a generation that Star Wars didn't. So you've got that problem. But overall, I think that this is a franchise that can go forward really, really strong and could take on just about anything if it keeps playing its cards right. And another area where it really needs to step up its game, no pun intended, is in the gaming world. Jurassic Park actually had some of the best games or the Jurassic Park franchise had some of the best games in the 90s. It really did. There were some really badass PlayStation games. The Sega Genesis game for Jurassic Park, where you got to play as the Velociraptors, in my opinion, one of the greatest games of all time. They need to really hit hard on that, and don't make it money-making grabs. Make it great games so that people remember and think about and continue between these multi-year spans, rocking out Jurassic Park content like that needs to happen. I think Jurassic Park, I mean, especially now that they've introduced with this movie, with Fallen Kingdom, they've introduced kind of like the, how does this technology, to make dinosaurs, what can this do for humans themselves? I think you're, spoiler alert, I think a little late on that. I think that you're opening up a lot of doorways as to how far this can really go, and you can make a massive franchise out of this. And I hope they do. I want to see it because I love dinosaurs. Always loved dinosaurs. Since I was the smallest kid, I just obsessed with them. So this is, I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I can't wait for more. So anyway, that's it for this week's Sovryn Tech. I'll wrap this baby up. Don't forget, if you want to become a patron, get access to thousands of hours of content, you go to patreon.com/SovrynTech. Get your hookup, just $1 a month. You can do more if you want. Many do, but just $1 a month, and you're going to get access to all kinds of exclusives, all kinds of hotness. I will see all of you on the other side.
You just experienced Sovryn Tech. Go to sovryntech.com, that's SOVRYN tech.com, and connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovryn Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.